A very good morning to all of you. Jai Hind and welcome to the daily current affairs and MCQ series. I hope you had a great weekend. So let's begin afresh. The first article that we are discussing today, that is with respect to India's engagement with Oman. We have had great relationship with this country in the Gulf region, right? And we are trying to, take the defense ties further, and that is where this article becomes important, right? So what becomes important for from this article regarding your exam is basically the bilateral relation which India is having with Oman, right? Apart from that, particularly concerning the defense ties, particularly with Oman and the Gulf region, right? And the joint military cooperation arrangement which we are having with Oman, that is the JMCC, right? So right now what is happening is that after a gap of 3 years, we are going to conduct this joint military cooperation committee's meeting. That is, it was scheduled to earlier, और जब कह लो कि एक तरीके से this was envisaged originally to be conducted annually, which could not be the case, and that is why you had the 9th meeting conducted, or 9th such session between the JMCC, which was held in Oman, but that was in 2018, right? So you have had almost 3 years gap now since the JMCC held its meeting, and now this is the 10th edition. This is going to be the 10th edition after the 3-year gap where they are going to meet, right? So this is, since there has been a gap of 3-4 years now between the JMCC edition 9 and edition 10, what the Indian side has said that, and certainly what the Omani side is also hopeful of, that they are going to comprehensively evaluate the relationship, what are the ongoing exchanges between India and Oman in the defense sector, and apart from that, they are also going to provide a roadmap for strengthening the defense ties in the coming years, right? So look, why this region is important, because certainly the Gulf region, every power of the world has an eye on the Gulf region. It has huge resources, it is strategically important, and certainly that gives, or that lends this particular region of the world great heft, right? And that is why India also certainly wants to continue with the engagement which we have been having with Oman, and we want to revive the things which have been left in a lurch, right? COVID certainly was one of the factors, but right now things seem to be moving on a greater speed as far as the JMCC is concerned, right? So whenever the outcomes of the JMCC will be there, we are going to again touch upon this topic, right? Until that point of time, let's take this question. So which of the following statements is or are correct with respect to India-Oman engagement? First, the Joint Military Cooperation Committee is the apex form of engagement between India and Oman for defense matters. Second, JMCC evaluates and provides guidance to the overall framework of defense exchanges between the two countries. And third, Oman is the only country in the Gulf region with whom all the 3 services of India conduct regular bilateral exercises. Yes. So please mark your answers. Yes, good morning all, good morning Ekta. Certainly, look Ekta, these current affairs are important for any and every exam, right? So I would suggest that you certainly should follow current affairs, and you can practice these questions. No harm in that. Okay, Mehboob says B, Kavita says D. Right, so let's take a look at the answer. Let's take a look at these statements one by one. So certainly when you talk about the JMCC, that is the apex level body through which we are engaging with Oman for the defense related matters, right? So that is absolutely fine. Then JMCC, it also evaluates and it provides guidance to all the defense related matters between the two countries, the exchanges which are ongoing, the exchanges which are being planned, which are in the pipeline. So second is also fine. Now comes the third statement, and this aptly tells you the significance Oman is having for India. Why? Because as far as the Gulf region is concerned, so in the Gulf region you have Oman being the only country with which all the services, that is the Army, Navy and the Air Force, all the services, they have been conducting regular bilateral engagements with each other, right? So that is why this is important and this is right. So your answer will be all, that is option D, right? I believe that you all have typed the right answer. Chaliye, great. So moving to the next article, Now this is something, you know, regarding the powers and the role of the presiding officer of the House of the Parliament and the Houses of Assemblies. This has been in news because of the suspension of some MLAs of one political party in the Maharashtra State Assembly, right? And that is why this has been news. This has been struck down by the Supreme Court. So let's quickly revise the constitutional provisions, the roles and the power of the presiding officer of the House, because he is the deciding authority here, right? So what has happened is that the Supreme Court has quashed a 1-year suspension of 12 Maharashtra BJP MLAs. What did the Supreme Court say? That what the powers which have been exercised by the Speaker of the Legislative Assembly of Maharashtra, they are unconstitutional. They are, you know, transgressing the constitutional powers that have been granted to the Speaker. Because simple सी बात है, when you talk about the presiding officer of the House, certainly there is a responsibility which has been cast upon the presiding officer of the House to ensure decorum in the House, to ensure smooth functioning of the House, to ensure that the proceedings are conducted, right? That the House functions and its time is not wasted, it does not go unproductive. But at the same time, the Speaker or the presiding officer also needs to ensure that they do not, you know, pass judgments or make orders which are not, which are, you know, which are biased and which are political in nature or which suit one political party, right? So that is what the Supreme Court had said, that it was unconstitutional, substantially illegal and irrational that the legislators of the Maharashtra Legislative Assembly, they were suspended for 1 year. You can certainly suspend them, but that can be done, or that should be done only for the remaining period of the session itself, right? Look, once the House meets and until it is prorogued or it is adjourned sine die, right? That is the one session that you call it. So if you want to suspend somebody, you can suspend, like, see, अगर मान लो 10 दिन का सेशन हो गया है, 1 महीने का सेशन था, 20 दिन का टाइम अभी बचा हुआ है, तो आप उन रिमेनिंग 20 डेज के लिए यू कैन सस्पेंड. बट व्हाट इज द नीड दैट यू आर गोइंग टू सस्पेंड देम, और यू सस्पेंडेड देम फॉर द एंटायर year itself? So that is where the Supreme Court found it to be unconstitutional and declared this decision to be invalid, right? Then it was irrational and unconstitutional act which traversed beyond the powers of the assembly. Now this is another thing which, you know, shows upon what exactly is the power of the speaker, right? So that is with respect to this article. Let's take a question and then we are going to discuss about a few more things. So which of the following statements is or are correct? First, Article 190 Clause 4 provides that Article 194 provides that if for a period of 60 days a member of a house of the legislature of a state is without permission of that house absent from all meetings, his seat can be declared vacant. Second, the presiding officer of the House may direct the member to absent himself for any period not longer than the remainder of the present session. Yes. So what should be the answer here? Okay, great. Right, absolutely. So look, when we talk about the constitutional provisions, so certainly look, the presiding officer of any house, the constitution under Article 190, especially 190 clause 4, that provides the powers to the speaker कि अगर कोई व्यक्ति जो है, he is continuously absent without informing the house, without the permission of the presiding officer, right, and for a period of continuously 60 days, then his seat can be declared vacant, right? That is fine. Then the next thing is that concerning, you know, the recent Supreme Court order here that we were just discussing, that you can, for the remainder of the period, you can ask the person to remain absent, right? But that is for the remainder period of that particular session itself and not going to the next session, right? So both the statements are true here. Your answer will be C. That is question 2 answer is C, right? So please bear in mind, जो आपको ध्यान में रखनी है यहाँ पे एग्जैक्टली चीज जो हुई है इस सुप्रीम कोर्ट के केस में, दैट इज बेसिकली दैट फॉर दैट पर्टिकुलर सेशन ओनली द स्पीकर और द प्रिसाइडिंग ऑफिसर ऑफ द हाउस शुड बी, you know, taking a decision in that particular session and not beyond that session. ठीक है, चलिए, great. So moving to the next article now, that is India willing to talk to Pakistan on pilgrim flights. So that is a good development. That has been something the Pakistani side has also, at least they have depicted that they are trying to better the relationship with India, and that is the exam perspective. आपके लिए क्या important हो जाएगा? Indo-Pak relationship, new developments, and certainly the Kartarpur corridor, क्योंकि यहाँ पे हम pilgrimage sites की भी बात कर रहे हैं, right? So this is precisely on that particular count only that Pakistani side has shown some willingness to ease out the relationships, to better the relationships between the two countries, and that is why they have, said that Ministry of External Affairs has said that it has noted that India is willing and it is positive to engage in talks with Pakistan, and we can upgrade the 1974 joint protocol on religious pilgrimages. Now, what is this 1974 joint protocol? This basically is an arrangement through which, both the countries, they allow the respective communities on each of the side of the country to visit their holy places or their pilgrimages on the other side of the border, right? So that is why the Kartarpur corridor also becomes important, right? That is one such, pilgrimage where Sikhs have faith and they are allowed through this joint protocol arrangement. Apart from that, what has been conveyed by India, that our position has been conveyed through formal channels, that we are willing to increase this number. So has the Pakistanis also, at least they have shown such inclination that they are also interested in increasing these number of places. And apart from that, we have also agreed to, an early meeting in the next week, although officials, they have not let out much of the details, but that is highly likely that we have this meeting next week to upgrade the details of how to upgrade these protocols, right? So that is on the pilgrimage relationship front between India and Pakistan. देखो simple सी बात है, we also have the cultural ties. And through these cultural ties, certainly we can provide an impetus to take the relationship further. मतलब कि further normalcy की तरफ अगर लेके जाना चाहें तो, right? चलिए, so that is concerning this article. Let's take a question now. हाँ जी, which of the following statements is or are correct with respect to the bilateral engagement between India and Pakistan? First, the Pakistan government sent a proposal from the Pakistan Hindu Council to allow a group of 170 pilgrims to fly directly from Karachi and Lahore to places of worship in India. And second, on humanitarian grounds, Pakistan has authorized clearances to India for the transport of food aid to Afghanistan over the land route through Pakistan. Yes, all of you, please mark your answers in the comment section. Okay, great. So Pranjal says C, Anu says A, Shubhankar says A. Great. Look, this is something which is still under consideration. This has not yet happened. That India certainly wants to send aid to Afghanistan via Pakistan, but that is, still not been allowed, right? So as far as the second statement is concerned, that is incorrect. You don't have any authorization being granted by Pakistan even on humanitarian grounds, right? But the first statement is correct, that Pakistan, they have requested that the pilgrims be allowed to directly fly from Karachi and Lahore, that is through the aerial route, right? So first is only correct, and hence your answer for question number 3 will be A. That is only 1. Yes, exactly. Not directly through Pakistan, right? So what has been exactly the case, that the Pakistanis have sent a proposal from the Pakistan Hindu Council to allow these people to directly fly to their places of worship in India, and the Ministry of External Affairs from India, that is India, has also confirmed that they are expecting that they'll be able to secure clearances from Pakistan to provide humanitarian aid to Afghanistan. through the land route via Pakistan, but that has not happened yet. ठीक है, अभी तक हुआ नहीं है ऐसा, which is otherwise closed, right? And already we have sent around 5 lakh COVID-19 vaccines apart from medical, as a part of the medical assistance to Afghanistan, right, through special flights. But look, this certainly has an angle of cost to it, right? When you're trying to send that aid, which can be sent through the land route as well, you have the cost angle which becomes increasingly higher on that front, right? Chaliye, great. So moving to the next article now. So finally you have the bad bank, that is the Reserve Bank of India, which had earlier provided for, and apart from that the union budget of the previous year that had announced, in which the union minister had announced that we are going to finally set up a bad bank to deal with the menace of the non-performing assets, that is the NPAs, right, and which have certainly shown an increase because of the COVID-19 pandemic and the impact of the pandemic on the businesses in the country, right? So it has got all the regulatory approvals and finally it is going to see the light of the day. So आप लोगों के एग्जाम के लिए क्या इंपॉर्टेंट हो जाएगा कि आप लोग एक तो रिवाइज करें द कॉन्सेप्चुअल क्लैरिटी विद रिस्पेक्ट टू द बैड बैंक, money and banking, and the guidelines by the Reserve Bank of India regarding this particular bad bank which is going to be set up, or rather which has already been put in place. So a bad bank to deal with the stressed assets in the loss laden banking system has received all the regulatory approvals, because of which it is in news, and the name is the National Asset Reconstruction Company, which is going to acquire and aggregate the identified bad loan accounts from banks, right? So I believe that how exactly you are aware how a bad bank functions. जितने भी NPAs होंगे, let's quickly just take a detour here, quickly देख लेते हैं. Look, जो भी मान लो normal banks हैं in the country which are operating, right, these maybe this is the this is the first bank, this is the second bank, this is the third bank. जितने भी बैंक्स हैं जिनके पास जो भी NPAs हैं, all these banks, they are going to provide all their NPAs. These are the non-performing assets which have turned bad. These are those loans which are which have turned bad, for which these banks are unable to recover the amount. ये सारी चीजें जो हैं, they are going to provide to the one bad bank which is going to acquire it, and now all this money is the headache of this bad bank. Their balance sheets will be cleared, right? They'll be having their own balance sheets cleared, and this headache will now get transferred to the bad bank, and this bad bank is now going to deal into these NPAs, and it is going to provide, first it is going to try to recover as much amount as possible, right? Or it is going to convert it into equity, and it is going to try to recover maximum amount which is possible. It is going to try and recover the maximum amount which can be recovered, right? So what happens is that you give all the NPAs to this bank and you relieve the normal, or you can say the regular banking system, you provide relief to those banks, ताकि ये लोग जो हैं ये वापस अपनी lending activities को resume कर सकें उतनी vigor से जितने पहले कर सकते थे. Getting the point? These normal banks which were earlier stressed because of these NPAs, they were having financial stresses because of these NPAs. Now they are relatively free and they can resume their lending activities almost like a normal day, right? So that is where the significance of a bad bank lies, right? Chaliye. So what is going to happen is that all the lenders, they plan to transfer at least rupees 50,000 crore of toxic assets. These toxic assets are nothing but the NPAs only, right, to the NARCL by 31st of March. ठीक है, by the end of this financial year this is going to happen. उसके बाद जो है NARCL will be responsible for extracting or recovering the amount from this particular NPAs, right? चलिए. So I believe you are clear with the concept of how a bad bank works, right? Okay, so moving to the question now. Yes. Which of the following statements is or are incorrect with respect to the newly approved bad bank? First, The Mellon Bank was the first one to create the first bad bank in 1988. Second, India Debt Resolution Company Limited is handling the debt resolution process under an exclusive arrangement for the newly created bad bank. And third, National Asset Reconstruction Company Limited has already been incorporated under the Companies Act. Okay, Tanisha says A. Chandrakant says C. Okay, great. Okay, let's wait for other people also to mark their answers. Good morning, Chandrakant. Okay, Ahana says B and Anu says B. Shubhankar says B. Mehboob says A. Great. So look, 1988 was the first year, or was the year when the first bad bank was created, and that bank was created by the US based Mellon Bank, right? This is the Mellon Bank which had created the first bad bank of the world, which is based in the United States of America, right? So this is fine. When you talk about the IDRCL, that is going to be the handling agency for the debt resolution process under an exclusive arrangement for the newly created NARCL, right? So that is also fine. And this has been incorporated under the provisions of which act? That is the Companies Act of 2013 as amended, and the original act was of 1956, right? So third is also correct. ठीक है, तो basically what is going to be important कि कौन कौन सी agencies जो है which are catering to which particular needs. So NARCL जो है वो deal करेगा in the NPS, but apart from that it is going to be the IDRCL, and the act is the Companies Act, right? So none will be the answer because all the statements are correct. तो आपका incorrect जो है वो हो जाएगा none, that is option D, right? I believe we are clear on this. ठीक है, देखो ये बैड बैंक वाला जो है पिछले बजट से ही जो है दिस हैज बीन द टॉक ऑफ द टाउन, राइट? एंड पर्टिकुलरली आफ्टर कोविड स्ट्रक the industry was all the economic activity went for a toss. You had the contraction in GDP in the first quarter of the previous financial year, right? And apart from that you also had many of the sectors in the economy subsiding or having contractions, because of which they were unable to pay their credits, because of which they were unable to pay back their loans, and that has had an impact on the number of the non-performing assets, right? For which this particular bad bank is being created, right? So this becomes important from prelims perspective also, and it becomes important from your mains perspective also. GS3 मेंस पेपर में जो है सवाल पूछा जा सकता है इसके ऊपर एक एनालिटिकल, ठीक है? तो उस लिहाज से भी आप लोगों के लिए जरूरी है इसको कवर करना. चलिए, so that brings us to the last question for the day. Yes. So which of the following statements is or are correct? First, recently Serbia has withdrawn the exploration licenses of Anglo-Australian mining company Rio Tinto. Second, plans for the development related to a lithium mine stand scrapped due to this decision. And third, lithium is the main component of the batteries used in electric vehicles and demand for the element is increasing. Yes. So what should be the answer here? Okay, great. Absolutely fine. So recently this was in news because of huge protests being happening in Belgrade by the local population, the environmentalists, the people of Serbia, that they wanted to scrap this lithium mining clearance which was granted to the Anglo-Australian mining company, and that is why it was in news, right? So it was related to a lithium mine for which this project was granted. And why is this important? Because it is a main component for which the mining is done concerning the production and its usage in the electric vehicles, for which many of the countries across the world are pushing, right? So that is where the significance of this mineral lies. So your answer will be 1, 2 and 3 all are correct, right? So let's quickly take a look at the map also. So answer is certainly D. Here you have Serbia, you have Bulgaria, Romania, Hungary, Croatia, Bosnia-Herzegovina, Montenegro, Albania, all sharing a border, but it does not have any opening to the sea, right? Does it have any opening to the sea? Or can we say that it is a landlocked country? Certainly we can say that it is a landlocked country, right? Because it does not itself have a opening to the sea. But can we say that Serbia is a double landlocked country? No, we cannot say it is a double landlocked country. Why? Because its neighbors, that is Montenegro and Albania, both they have borders with the Adriatic Sea, right? So that is the fact regarding geographical location of Serbia, right? And this is the capital Belgrade, where huge amount of protests were there, and in the vicinity of their capital city only they were having these lithium mines, where the Rio Tinto mining authorization was granted, which has now been revoked, right? Chaliye, great. So that is all for today. With that, we have come to an end. Thank you so much for joining in and playing an interactive role with me here, right? On that count, it's a wrap. Thank you so much. Jai Hind, stay safe, study well, take care. Bye-bye.